Your neighbor accused you of witchcraft. The cow died. The baby got sick. The crop failed. It was all your fault. You were born in 1667 in Salem Village, Massachusetts, a small Puritan community isolated from the world. Your family had arrived from England seeking religious freedom, but found a society obsessed with moral purity and terrified by the devil. You grew up in a simple wooden house where each day began with long prayers. Puritans believed Satan constantly lurked. Any strange behavior, misfortune, or illness was immediately attributed to witchcraft. At 20, you married Farmer John. You lived at town's edge, with a garden you tended carefully. Your herbs grew better than neighbors, generating envious whispers among village women. Your neighbor Martha was a bitter 45-year-old widow. She was jealous of your youth, beauty, and prosperous garden. Her plants always withered and died, filling her with resentment. In Puritan communities, women lived under constant scrutiny. Any woman too independent, intelligent, or successful was suspect. There was no way to win in this system designed to control women. In summer 1692, witchcraft rumors began in Salem. Reverend Parris's daughter and niece had strange convulsions and acted possessed. Doctors found no physical causes. Reverend Parris decided local witches were tormenting his daughters. He pressured the girls to identify torturers. The frightened children began randomly pointing to village women. The hysteria spread like wildfire through the community. Families who had lived peacefully for decades began accusing each other of witchcraft. Old grudges, marital jealousies, land disputes, everything became evidence of satanic activity. Salem transformed into a place of absolute paranoia and terror. Martha saw her perfect opportunity for revenge. One August morning, her milk cow was found dead in the barn with no apparent cause. Instead of accepting that animals sometimes die naturally, Martha immediately pointed to you as responsible for her only valuable animal's death. "She did it!" Martha screamed in front of the entire congregation after Sunday service. "Her garden flourishes while mine withers. She must have a pact with the devil." Her poisonous words fell on receptive ears. People were already looking for scapegoats for their everyday problems. 2 days later, Martha's newborn grandson developed high fever and began crying uncontrollably. Instead of seeking natural medical causes, Martha ran through the streets screaming that you had cursed her grandchild with the evil eye. The collective hysteria made the entire village view you with suspicion. When Martha's corn harvest was ruined by an insect plague, it was the final straw. Martha organized a group of village women to formally accuse you before the local magistrate. Her accusations included witchcraft, pacts with Satan, and using black magic to harm neighbors. On September 15, 1692, you were arrested in your own home in front of your terrified husband. The constables tied your hands and dragged you to the makeshift courthouse in the center of town. No lawyers were available for your defense. You were completely alone facing a judicial system designed to find you guilty. The trial began immediately with testimony from Martha and other women influenced by her malicious lies. Every minor misfortune that had occurred in the village during recent months was attributed directly to your supposed supernatural powers. Logic and actual evidence had no place in these proceedings. The first proof was the infamous water trial. They tied your hands and feet with rough ropes and threw you into the local pond. According to twisted Puritan logic, if you sank and drowned, you were innocent. If you floated and survived, it was because the devil was helping you, proving your guilt. Unfortunately for you, you had learned to swim as a child, an uncommon skill among Puritan women. When you floated on the water's surface, The crowd shouted triumphantly that they had found definitive evidence of your diabolic pact. There was no way to win this test designed to condemn you. The second test was searching for the devil's mark on your body. They stripped you completely naked and examined every inch of your skin, looking for marks, moles, or scars that could be interpreted as marks left by Satan during your supposed pact with him. They found a small birthmark on your left shoulder that you had carried your entire life. The magistrates declared this irrefutable evidence that you had allowed the devil to touch your body. They also found a small cut on your finger from cooking days before, interpreting it as a satanic ritual mark. The third test was the needle trial. They inserted long, sharp needles into various parts of your body, searching for spots where you felt no pain or didn't bleed. According to Puritan beliefs, witches had insensitive points where the devil had touched them, making those areas immune to normal pain. The pain was excruciating, but you tried not to scream to avoid giving them more evidence. Your pain resistance was misinterpreted as evidence of supernatural insensitivity. When you finally screamed in agony, they said it proved you were human in some parts but demonic in others. The fourth and most brutal test was the torture session, designed to extract a confession. They tied you to a special chair with devices that slowly crushed your fingers. The pain was so intense, you began hallucinating and losing consciousness repeatedly. The interrogators constantly shouted at you, "Confess your pact with Satan! Name your witch accomplices! Tell us where you perform your diabolic rituals!" But you had nothing to confess because you had never practiced witchcraft. You were simply an innocent woman trapped in collective hysteria. After hours of torture, your resistance finally broke. The pain was literally unbearable. In a moment of desperation, you decided to say what they wanted to hear, hoping they would stop the physical torment. "Yes," you whispered with a broken voice, "I am a witch." Your false confession was exactly what the magistrates had been waiting for. They forced you to elaborate details about your supposed pact with the devil, your imaginary nocturnal rituals, and names of other women who were supposedly your accomplices in witchcraft. Every word was a lie born from pain and desperation. Once you had confessed, your fate was completely sealed. In the Puritan judicial system, a witchcraft confession was an automatic and inevitable death sentence. There were no possible appeals, no second chances, no mercy for servants of Satan. On September 22nd, 1692, they took you to Gallows Hill, a small hill outside town that had become the official execution site for condemned witches. A crowd of neighbors, including Martha, gathered to witness your death as if it were public entertainment. They tied you to a wooden stake in the center of a pile of dry firewood. Reverend Parris offered one last chance to repent and save your soul. But by this point, you knew anything you said would be misinterpreted. You remained silent while they lit the fire under your feet. The flames began slowly, licking the base of the stake where you were bound. The heat became unbearable quickly. Thick smoke choked you as the flames rose toward your body. In your final conscious moments, you saw Martha in the crowd, smiling with malicious satisfaction at her successful revenge against you. Your death was not the end of the mass hysteria at all. Over the following bloody months, 19 more people were executed brutally in Salem for witchcraft, and more than 200 were falsely accused. The paranoia finally ended when accusations began including people far too prominent and influential to be credible as witches or servants of Satan. Years later, when the madness finally passed completely, many magistrates and witnesses publicly admitted They had made terrible and unforgivable mistakes. Some sincerely apologized to the devastated families of innocent victims. Martha never apologized. She had gotten exactly what she wanted: cruel revenge against a younger, more successful woman than herself. The Salem witch trials became an international symbol of how irrational fear, blind superstition, and extreme religious intolerance can completely transform a civilized community into a murderous and bloodthirsty mob. Your story tragically represents hundreds of innocent women who died brutally simply for being different, successful, or inconvenient to someone more powerful. Friends, what specific historical period would you like to experience in the next video? Comment below with detailed thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe completely. Let's continue exploring together the darkest and most brutal chapters of human history throughout all of the ages of human civilization.